Thank you very much, Rebecca Edwards and our beautiful band, for that inspiration this morning. Thank you. Hello. As you heard, we are in our second week of talking about the power of now, using the book by the same title by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. A guide to spiritual enlightenment. And in terms of a recap so far, we've discovered that this book is the story of the author's journey of awakening to the power of each present moment, and his realization that the obstacle, one of the obstacles in the way of waking up in that way, is this habit that we sometimes have of identifying with the chatter of our own mind and believing it. And the way through, he suggests, is this realization that we can come to that there is actually more to us than the chatter in our mind. I mean, that's part of us, but there is also this you of you that can watch, can witness your chatter. There's more going on inside there than what meets the eye. It's a lot to summarize in a few words. We covered a lot of ground last week. And you can catch up, and there are a number of ways to do that. For example, if you go to our website, www.cslsr.org, all of our videos are there. They're free. You can review them at your own pace, on demand. Or if you prefer, you can go to YouTube. You can search for my name, Edward Viljoen, and the YouTube channel for our center will come up. Or if you prefer Vimeo, because you know how we are, we like our preferred delivery system, you can go to Vimeo. We're CSL Santa Rosa on Vimeo. Or if you prefer audio, you can also get audio from our website. Or if you can't wait for the audio to be uploaded, you can go to our bookstore, steppingstonesbooksandgifts.org, and you can purchase the CD today. Most of the resources are free, but if you want the book, you have to purchase the book. So often we have the book for free to check out on our library. In other words, there's absolutely no reason why you can't go even deeper with your practice over here. In fact, next year we're talking about using our Wednesday evening services to discuss the ideas that are in these recommended books of each month. Because they're such powerful ideas, they can't really fit neatly into a 20-minute message. So we'll be doing that next year to go a little deeper with the ideas. Like, for example, the one that I'm getting out of the chapter I'm reading this week. From this week's reading, the topic is moving deeper into the moment, into the now. And the idea is that moving deeper becomes possible when you realize what your sense of self is. Have you ever thought about that? What is my sense of self? Where do I get it? What is it that I'm supposed to be? What is it that I'm supposed to feel? What am I supposed to think? And it turns out that your mind has an answer to all of these questions. And when I say your mind, I'm talking about that aspect of the mind that some people call the ego mind, or the lower self, the one that is responsible for chatter. And don't you know, when your sense of self comes from that lower mind, well, then you're dealing with its definitions and its values, and don't you know that what ego mind thinks is important is not always the same as what your higher mind knows. And don't you know that one of these voices is very, very loud, whereas the other is very, very gentle? And because one is very, very loud, it tends to dominate the inner scene with its values and its ideas and its chatter, which often centers on things such as competition, comparison, winning, control, urgency, fear. That's why the author says in the book, for so many people, a large part of their sense of self is intimately connected to their problems. Because it's so loud. We're not saying that there aren't such things as problems. There truly are. The issue is that whether they're real or imagined, when I identify with them solely or strongly to the exclusion of everything else, I start to limit my sense of self. And we're about discovering if there's more. It has nothing to do with being right or wrong or good or bad. It's just about accurately identifying your sense of self. I was thinking, we ought to have a new 12-step program here at the center. Hello, I'm Edward, and I'm addicted to my mind's thinking. And as with recovery from every kind of addiction, nothing can really be helped or moved until there is a straightforward, plain language acknowledgement and acceptance that something is going on. You got to start there. And it has to be followed up with a solid identification with a higher power. Now, my thinking is not my higher power. My thinking is my use of higher power. And once you start to see that, it gives you the opportunity to step out of your mind's conversation, to step outside of the chatter. And when you do that, you begin to see, wait a minute, there are actually other answers to the question, where does my sense of self come from? What am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to feel? What am I supposed to think? And these answers, they come from a deep quietness that is already in you. That if you try to think up the answers to the question using your mind, then all you get is, well, you start rewriting every single soap opera that ever was before. Same song. Second verse, a little bit louder, quite a lot worse. Because you're creating it out of the level of the chatter of the mind, and you can fall into step with the pattern of that thinking of your ego mind, and very soon you begin to believe it and define yourself by it. Here's how he describes that pattern. I'll read it to you, it's quite small. Hello? There we go. How does this mind pattern operate in your life? Are you always trying to get somewhere other than where you are? Is most of your doing just a means to an end? Is fulfillment always just around the corner or confined to short-lived pleasures such as sex, food, drinks, drugs, or thrills and excitement? Are you always focused on becoming, achieving, and attaining? Or alternatively, chasing some new thrill or pleasure? Do you believe that if you acquire more things, you will become more fulfilled, good enough, or psychologically complete? Are you waiting for a man or woman to give meaning to your life? And he's very clear to say that we're not about making an enemy out of our minds. No, the mind, he says in the book, is not dysfunctional. In fact, it's a wonderful tool, he says. Dysfunction, however, sets in when we seek a definition for ourself in the activity of the mind and mistake it for who you are when you start to think your mind's chatter is your personality. Is you. So where does it all go wrong? Right in that moment when the chatter, the mind's thinking, takes you out of the current moment into anywhere else. Into the future, into the past. And it's obsessed with things of the past and the future. And I am trying to become obsessed with reality. To have a full-on love affair with reality, with what's happening right now. So on Friday, I was slicing figs for my dehydrator because I've got a big old fig tree in the backyard. So there I am, slicing the figs, and my mind says, you know, I'd rather be doing something else right now. This is messy. Wait, this one's not ripe yet. Why did I pick it? Why didn't I pay attention? There's got to be a faster way of doing this. You know, I should have done this sooner. Maybe I can do all of this later. You know what? It would be easier just to buy dehydrated figs that are already done. You know what? Last year's figs were better than this year. What's up with this? Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that going on? And so I caught it in the moment. I caught it. I spotted the activity of my mind, and I realized it's like nobody is home. But when they left the TV on. And it's playing back to back the same soap opera. Daytime TV. And as a result, nobody is home to witness the miracle of a ceramic knife and how it cuts. The miracle of this thing in nature called a fig. No one there to notice what happens when you pick it, when you wash it, when you touch it, and when you slice it, and when you place it in a dehydrator. Nobody there. Just the noise of the TV. Until I came home to the moment. And then when I came home to the moment, then I could see my hands. I could see my hands. And how age has changed them. How arthritis is changing them. How there's a pulse in a vein. Moved by my heart. I have a heart. And there's hair. Back to the knife. A ceramic knife. Who made it? Who thought it up? Who packed it? Who marketed it? Who raised children who would dream it? Back to the hand. Is that warmth I see rising up from it, I think? Or is that just the idea of life rising up from everything that is there? In life-threatening emergency situations, that shift of awareness takes place to being present. It happens. A moment in which all other considerations are replaced in an instant by a sharp, intense focus of awareness that comes from something very still and very powerful. It rises up so that that which needs to be attended to can be handled. I'm thinking about my brother and a time when he fell. had the condition of epilepsy, and he was given to having seizures. And we were fortunate enough that he could stay with us for almost all of his life. And we would care for him. We had to be very attentive because when he had these seizures, it's not that they were violent, it's just that he would phase out. And then he would fall. So we had to be close and watch him all the time. And I remember one time he had a seizure and he did fall, and I wasn't close enough to prevent the fall. And he fell and he hit his head on a sharp corner and a door jamb. Bam! There was blood everywhere. A huge gash and a tremendous amount of loss of blood quickly. And I am no fan of blood. I don't do well with that at all. In fact, I usually faint, or at least run in the other direction. But not that time. Something happened that time. Something wonderful happened that time. A shift in awareness and focus took place. And I became available to the present moment, and it was as if I was standing in that place they call the eye of the storm, where everything was completely silent where I was, no matter what was going on around me. And I think back now, that moment needed music, right? Because it was so holy. And what rose up from the silence within me was wordless, and it caused me to know what to do and where to go. And I went straight to my brother and did what was uncharacteristic. I placed my hand directly on the wound to stop the blood. Now, I didn't have time to pray. I didn't have time to meditate. I didn't have time to burn incense. But the moment itself seemed as if all of that was present anyway. I have friends who tell me that that is exactly the reason why they love rock climbing, mountain climbing. Because it forces them into an intensely alive frame of mind, one that is free of personality, free of responsibilities, free of past, free of future, because safety depends on being absolutely present. Or other activities like jumping out of airplanes or car racing or any of those other high-risk adventures, you know, the ones that insurance doesn't usually cover. Because it relieves them of the attachments to things like preferences, personalities, problems, and issues. And in those activities where the stakes are high, they experience everything as being intensely alive, sharp focus. Now, the author of The Power of Now suggests that this experience of liveness is available even without high risk, high adventure. You don't have to have an increasingly set of interesting distractions or adventures to propel you into the present moment, but you do have to learn how to drop more deeply into any present moment. Like this one. And to let whatever is present rise up and appear to you as it is. Every sensation, every sound. Because the miracle of it may be deeply satisfying. Indeed, ordinary things become miraculous when seen through the filter of the present moment. The ordinary becomes spectacular when seen. long time ago, I was sitting at the airport waiting for a ride, and a courtesy van drove by, and it had on the sign, saying, "How am I driving? Call 1-800, etc." And as I watched that, I thought to myself, I should call and try to answer the question to the best of my ability. It seems sincere. Hello? I know you're inquiring as to how are you driving. Well, you see, there is a power in the universe greater than you are. And you are focusing it by directing your thoughts, your feelings, and your attention to the task of maneuvering safely through this world. And as a result, this power is being channeled through you in specialized ways, some unconscious, some conscious. And it's fulfilling your intention by doing all sorts of things like assimilating information, assimilating oxygen, refreshing your brain, lifting you up, organizing information. That's how I think you're driving. But you have to be present to notice it. It's a beautiful and wonderful mystery. Thank you so much for taking my call. Oh, the beautiful, wonderful mystery of being, the ordinary being miraculous. It requires coming home to the moment. And spiritual traditions have talked about that in the most beautiful, poetic way. You know how the way of poetry is to talk in images, not to be taken literally. Images to remind us that this great and beautiful mystery of the ordinary experience of being is available. He quotes many of them in The Power of Now. For example, this one from Matthew. Take no thought for the morrow shall take thought for things of itself. It's a poetic way of saying, be here. And it goes on to say, if you know it, and don't worry about forecasting and projecting all the things that are wrong, because that will take care of itself. That's my paraphrase. He also says from Luke, nobody who puts her hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is the state of consciousness in which you are unified with all that is, the thing itself. And anybody who sets in motion but is referring to the past is not going to have that sense of union. They're going to be divided. It's not advice to do nothing. Oh no. It's about the attitude of mind that invites you and I to be available to the thing that is in front of us. He quotes the Sufi poet Rumi. Past and future veil God from our sight. Burn up both of them with fire. It's part of a larger piece in which there's a conversation. Omar is speaking to somebody who is struggling, and he says, all this wailing, all this complaining that's going on in you, it shows that you are still sober. And when you're sober, then you refer to things of the past. What you need to do is hurry up and get drunk with divinity, right? That's what he's talking about. Don't be so sober that all you're doing is referring to the logic of the past and the planning of the future. Come home and be drunk with reality. Have an affair with reality. How about this, Meister Eckhart? Time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There is no greater obstacle to God than time. And it's a larger piece, this quote, and it's very well known. It goes on to say, and not only time, but temporalities, things that are temporary. And not only temporal things, but temporal affections. And not only temporal affections, but the very taint and smell of time. It's poetry. Isn't that wonderful? It says, time stinks. It is the very thing that will distract you from what is exactly here. It's poetry. It's intended to be extreme. I would like to close with one of my favorite teachers. Oh, I have so many, but I particularly like Gangaji for her work on being present. And she says, silence is an opening where the usual evaluation about past events and speculation about future events stops. When you let all mental activity stop, you make your mind available for the unknown, for your true self. Reflection means to give up all considerations, all computations, all measurement, and just be still. Insight and revelations arise quite naturally in reflection. Wisdom and clarity are natural byproducts of reflection, of not creating, of not following mind activity. So then let us take a moment to breathe in together and to exhale into quietness, into the opening of silence, in whatever way seems appropriate, to effortlessly witness